Hello, my lovelies! It certainly has been a hot minute, hasn't it? Now that lots of busy life stuff is out of the way and summer's rolled around, I'm hoping to get back into posting, and I thought, for my sanity if not yours, I needed to ease myself back into it. A little while ago, on stream, I drew some more members of the Ordo Electi, more than anything as an excuse to experiment with different and interesting body types. A little while back, I got a hit of inspiration and decided to, if not fully polished, certainly slightly polish off some of those sketches, particularly one of the character Vita. In fact, I got so inspired that I wrote a little short excerpt about her. For those of you who weren't there for the stream or simply need a reminder, Vita is one of the spies of the Ordo Electi, more specifically a smuggler. Her ability allows her, when she's focusing, and with some other caveats in there, to make people forget that what she's holding exists. As you can imagine, this can come in very handy. So, without further ado, please enjoy this short story. Vita's role was often forgotten. It was a necessity, truth be told. Her contributions were acknowledged, of course, and she lived better than most she knew. Comfortably, at least, with access to decent food and clothes, the creams and powders some liked to paint on their cheeks and eyelids. She didn't complain. Her rank in the Ordo Electi was respectable, if somewhat clandestine. An acknowledgement of her station, but rarely the specifics. It lent her a certain mystique, which she didn't entirely hate, though sometimes she would have preferred her reputation didn't precede her. Vita's appearance already made her quite singular, though she liked to think it was her charisma that ultimately lingered in others' minds once they got to know her. If she did her job correctly, however, no one would notice at all. Vita slipped through the throngs of people with the ease of one who knew both the city and its people intimately. How to angle your head a certain way, fix your gaze over an arm without making eye contact, a swerve of the hips or shoulder past a lumbering citizen. It was like some morbid dance, if rather more rude and earthier in smell than she imagined the grand balls must be. The steeple of a church loomed overhead, casting a sharp shadow over the market square, dappling the crowd with an appropriate amount of religious guilt, the stern eye of the watchman staring down upon them all. Vita had one hand pressed into the folds of her skirt, gripped tightly around a letter sealed with wax. To an untrained eye, the pose seemed nonchalant. Beneath, her arm muscles strained, her brow creased in concentration, a trickle of sweat working its way down her neck and into her collar. Years of honing her craft, of harnessing the reins of her golden mark and the potent alchemical mixture that now coursed through her, made channeling the push and pull of magic almost instinctive. She had the stamina to maintain it, with confidence, for some time. What made it difficult now was the crush of people around her. The fleeting stares, the smells, the deafening noise. Every bump and nudge by an unobservant passerby threatened to fracture her focus. And there was another deadlier pressure too. The quiet knowledge that she was being hunted, even if her pursuers did not yet know her. The merchant house was small, unassuming, doing a remarkable job of straddling that fine line between downtrodden and respectable. Its windows displayed an odd mix of goods: jars of pickled vegetables, coils of rope, a few trinkets that might pass for jewellery if one squinted. The shopfront greeted her, chalkboard squeaking feebly in the wind as it boasted the opening times with ornate penmanship. Not that Vita concerned herself too much with if they were ready to receive her. A bell tinkled above the door as she entered, and a young man sprung up from behind the counter as if he'd been shot. He was lanky, awkward, with clothes that hung a little too loose on his thin frame. Vita politely ignored the cover of the erotic novel he attempted to casually hide as he leaned forward to greet her, looking guilty. Well, hello, miss. I'm sorry. This is That and Son's primary distribution for the... Vita's hand for silence was gentle but immediate. Instead, she produced the folded parchment from her pockets and held it up for inspection. "A letter?" he asked, tilting his head, confusion clear on his face. Vita allowed herself a small, wry smile. "Yes, I am expected. Or I soon will be." She placed the thick envelope on the desk deliberately, letting her fingers relax as though setting down some great and terrible burden. Her concentration followed the letter for a moment longer, lingered, and then released. The effect was immediate. Clarity, surprise, understanding, all in the same blink. The young man's eyebrows shot up. His hands froze midway through reaching for the letter, a faint whistle of breath escaping him. She noted the rise of his shoulders, the quick swallow, the way his gaze darted to the doorway. Behind him there was the sound of a chair scraping across the floor and muttered curses from the back office as someone rushed forward. And, in that same moment, more a sixth sense than a concrete understanding, Vita knew that Casembo, leader of the Order Electi, had sat up slowly at her desk some miles away in a dark tower as if waking from a dream, had suddenly remembered the letter she had entrusted Vita with almost 2 days ago. The apprentice's confusion melted into dutiful understanding. He stepped back a fraction, narrowly saving himself from being trampled as the cursing from the back office grew closer. "Ralph, the last time, you blasted boy, I told you to notify me." It's not... I didn't... A man pushed through, his presence filling the doorway. Just past middle-aged, with black hair peppered with grey that hung loose to the chin, and a finely coiffed beard. He was dressed in red fabric sewn to look a little more expensive than the material probably was, though, much to Vita's reluctance, one had to admit it did little to diminish the rakish quality about him. Deft fingers, the wandering kind that often took what they shouldn't, absently snatched the letter from the counter. It disappeared inside his jacket. "If I catch you reading that Doors Down novella again, you're going to be giving me your nights as well. Half pay if you ain't careful." Ralph, as the young man turned out to be, had the decency to cast his gaze downward and turn bright red, nodding profusely. Vita tried her best not to laugh at the poor young man as she was hastily ushered behind the counter. "It's good to see you too, Malcolm." I'm getting to you in a second, missy. You're not due for another week." As Vita was led to the back, she caught a final glimpse of Ralph, carefully manoeuvring his book into the desk drawer. "Spies caught wind one of our informants might be compromised," Vita muttered as she eased into the leather chair by the fire, boots still on. "Had to get the information out before the ring caught on, otherwise the investigation was for nothing. They're more organised than we gave them credit for. Some of the others are under observation, as best we can tell. We had to act fast." Malcolm's lips curved in a slow smile as he moved over to a heavy floor safe, wrought in iron. "I suppose I ain't surprised they sent their finest, then." Vita snorted and waved him off as he set about storing the envelope away. The clink of metal and the solid thunk of the lock sounded more reassuring than any words could. He chuckled to himself as Vita leaned back and began removing her boots, letting the fire warm her feet. "It never don't get me that move of yours." "Rather the point of it, isn't it?" she replied, wry, tugging at the laces. "Still, ain't the worst kind of magic your lot's peddling. And you're all right, mostly." A boot came flying in his direction. "Ah, the utmost kindness from a rapscallion like you. And since you adore me so much..." "Bit of a stretch, that," he interrupted. "And since you adore me so much," Vita pressed on, "you can fetch me a pot of tea." Malcolm grumbled theatrically, but the smile tugging at his lips betrayed him as he moved to obey. Vita let herself sink into the quiet, a momentary reprieve, already calculating her next move even as her body recovered. There was a pleasant emptiness, a hollowness that came from this kind of fatigue. like a rag doll with not quite enough stuffing. She could rest here for now, sleep off the worst of the buzz that came from staying awake all night. Ceramics chimed musically as spoons were placed into mugs, alongside the promising crinkle of some delicacy in wax paper being unwrapped. The city's noise faded to a dull hum. The warmth of the fire filled her bones.